Hey everyone, I'm Benjamin Diggles, co-founder of Constellation Network and a relentless advocate for making blockchain infrastructure usable, useful, and unstoppable. If you're listening to the Edge of Show, where we dive into the boldest ideas shaping Web3 and making their listeners unstoppable, stick around.
Hey, Web3 Trailblazers. Today we're sitting down with Benjamin Diggles, co founder of Constellation Network and a driving force behind some of the most mission critical infrastructure in blockchain today. We explore how digital evidence is unlocking $1 trillion transparency economy, how the new Builder program that Constellation has deployed is opening doors for devs everywhere to put data on chain, and we get into the future of decentralized physical infrastructure with their game changing Door platform that rewards businesses for tracking their foot traffic. All this and more on the Edge of Show, where we highlight the boldest innovations building real world utility in Web3. Cue the intro.
Welcome to the Edge of Show, your gateway to the Web3 revolution. We explore the cutting edge of blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, ordinals, DeFi, gaming, and entertainment, plus how AI is reshaping our digital future. Join us as we bring you visionaries and disruptors pushing boundaries in this digital renaissance. This show is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers that are pumped about where innovation meets culture. This is where the future begins.
Hello and welcome to the Edge of Show. I'm your host, Josh Krieger, and we feature a variety of top-notch guests and other hosts as well. It's another production of the Edge of Company, a quickly growing media ecosystem empowering the pioneers of Web3 tech and culture, and responsible for other groundbreaking endeavors like the Outer Edge Innovation Festival in LA and Riyadh, as well as an upcoming event, The Future of Money, Governance, and the Law. And so delighted to have one of our partners for that event on the show today, Constellation Network. We have Benjamin Diggles, the co-founder and a visionary in blockchain infrastructure, trusted data, and decentralized innovation across real-world industries. His work is truly pushing the boundaries of compliance tech, DeFi utility, and physical digital integration. Benjamin, it's so great to have you on the show and to see you again.
Yeah, appreciate it, Josh. It's great to be here. I think you and I, we met for the first time at the Digital Summit event in late March of this year, back in DC.
Yeah, so I'm still here in DC. I've been many other places since, but I'm back in DC, getting ready for our upcoming event. And where are you today?
I'm based in Denver, Colorado, and I'm lucky enough to not be on the road. So I'm here in Colorado today.
Cool. And I do think you end up getting to DC on a fairly regular basis, correct?
Correct. Yep. And of course, we'll probably talk a little bit about it. I'm going to be present at this upcoming event happening on October 30th as a speaker. And as you know, Constellation is a sponsor of the event.
Yeah, thank you so much for being part of this fifth time event. It's our first time at Edge of Company co-hosting, and we're hoping to bring some more special sort of sauce to the table and put on a great event for folks. We have speakers and attendees coming from all over the world in all aspects of government, enterprise, and the industry. So it's going to be great to have you there. But I really want to unpack sort of what you guys are doing, because I think it's so unique in this space, and also sort of get a little bit more of a sense of sort of the insights that led you down the path that you guys have taken at Constellation over the last few years. So maybe we can start with sort of the moment you realized digital evidence was more than just internal innovation. What kind of sparked that moment where you thought this could be a product per se, not just for Constellation, but across industries?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give a little bit of, I'll set the table, if you will, to make sense of those that may have not heard about us. My team hates me saying this, but I always say Constellation is the biggest blockchain project you've never heard of. And I usually say that tongue in cheek because we are a team of builders that really keeps our head down and is focused on delivering, these emerging solutions in the blockchain space. For those that don't know, Constellation was founded in 2017. We were very quick to go to market with the federal government. We landed our first contract in March of 2019. And so we've been effectively contracting with the Department of Defense and other three-letter agencies now for 6.5 years. I'm sure people are probably tired of hearing that, but it's a big, point of pride for us, considering We were one of the first, if not the first, blockchain company to be involved in government contracts. We were validated by the Air Force Research Laboratory, Department of Defense, as secure, scalable, and DoD approved. So that really helped us sort of set the stage for what was to come in the company through the productization of digital evidence. But was always the vision, right? Like, so when we started working with the federal government, this was back, as I mentioned, in early 2019, when most enterprise didn't really want anything to do with blockchain, mostly because of the stigma attached to it. That's that Bitcoin thing. It's expensive. It's hard to run. It's slow. And it's terrible for the environment. And, they weren't wrong, right? Outside of the expression of peer-to-peer payments that can be done on a Bitcoin network, the network really wasn't good for much beyond that.
But man, everyone has tried to like run everything on Bitcoin at this point. Like, this has been the last year and a half. It's been, what can we do on Bitcoin? Let's build a game. Let's
right.
Yeah,
payments. The answer is payments. So if you if you want to do something on Bitcoin, use it as a payment mechanism that you're just going to have to wait and have some transaction fees, which is fine, right? I think Bitcoin's awesome. So I am a maximalist. I just want to make sure I'm not crapping on Bitcoin here. But so with the enterprise being sort of staunch about that there's not going to be really any applications, we leaned into the federal government that saw a big opportunity in distributed ledger technology. And as I mentioned, we proved that out. But part of that strategy was to use the federal government to pin them against our roadmap and have them effectively pay for the commercialization of our network. So we do have programs and products that run within the federal purview. But what we did this year at the summit, when we were chatting, I think it was March 28th of 2025 this year, we launched digital evidence, which is effectively born from our efforts that we've done with the federal government. And, the name, we wanted to make it absolutely in your face. Didn't want to have some cool, like, sort of, weird name. We wanted to be like, hey, do you want digital evidence on data types, transactions, really anything, real world assets? Because it really points to the hallmark of what is the promise of blockchain, which is immutability, a term that a lot of us didn't even use before blockchain came out. And so this vision come to life, I'm not going to lie, is a dream come true, because we've been talking about blockchain as an ABI service since, back in 2019. So this year being able to unveil that has been not only very impactful for us, but I think it's put a stake in the ground for the industry at large.
Nice. And what's been sort of the reaction so far from your, I guess, current and prospective customers in terms of the concept of digital evidence?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a very interesting thing, because we're living in a time that, it's hard to not to agree with this statement that trust is at an all-time low, right? Like we can't even really believe what we see on screens anymore, even though I feel like a lot of us still do. And that makes sense, right? All of this technology has been coming out in droves at a neck-breaking speed. I mean, what's happened in the last 2 years with AI is pretty hard to miss, right? It's changed everything. But I think that the residue or the byproduct of this sort of proliferation of net new technology has left us in a lack of trust, because most of these large organizations, and I have no problem throwing names out, such as Google and Apple, they're both paying out lawsuits for, doing things that were untrustworthy to their customers' data. And these are people that I believe these are companies that I believe should be setting the standard on doing the right thing on behalf of their customers. Then you get into anything that has to do with social media, communications, the media in general. It's really hard to tell what you're looking at or what you're reading or what you're consuming, if it's real or not. And of course, I'm telling this more from the consumer perspective. When we come to the enterprise perspective, that trust is absolutely paramount. If you're going to be feeding AI data into some form of an automation or something that's going to be a decision-making system that could be, critical in nature, you need to trust it. And unfortunately, right now with hallucinations and a lot of the things, there's just a ton of efforts kind of coming into like buttoning that stuff up as much as possible. So while I am not super happy that trust is at an all-time low, there's never been a better time for blockchain to play a role in being that additive layer within these workflows, systems, and operations to restore that trust and create transparency using immutable ledger technology in a meaningful way. So it's really coming into a crescendo timeline of how it's being received. And the last thing I'll say just on that question you asked is, it went from like back in the day, no, we don't want it, to, okay, we're curious, can you educate us, but we're still not ready to make any moves, to 2025. We've seen, Fortune 500 companies coming out of the woodwork saying, how do we like create a practice around this and get this embedded into our workflows as soon as possible? So it's for a guy like me, it's a pretty fun year.
Hey listeners, are you ready to amplify your voice in a digital world? Introducing .podcast domains, your gateway to the future of online identity. Whether you're a creator, a company, or just someone with big ideas, .podcast is for you. Own your unique digital identity, connect securely, and explore hundreds of apps with no renewal fees. Don't wait for someone else to claim your name. Secure your .podcast domain today and be part of the next generation of content creation. Visit get.unstoppabledomains.com/podcast to get started. Again, that's get.unstoppabledomains.com/podcast. Your voice, your rules, your identity.
Yeah. Wow. There a lot that you just shared there, and yeah, exciting to see the demand for I guess rebuilding trust in our society, right? I mean, this technology with AI is fantastic. There's so much, potential. I know it shaved a lot of hours off of our organization and created a lot more efficiency, but there's been conversations that have been a little weird over the last years. Like, Josh, do you want to, have a video clone of yourself read the news instead of having it read the news? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun, but I'm not so sure I'm ready for a second Josh, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
these are some of the challenges we have, and Will I Am has talked a lot about identity and likeness IP and what happens with that. I think there are a lot of IP challenges with the proliferation of data, and just also data accuracy concerns, and sort of, some of this data just needs to be private and it needs to stay private, so lots of things there that are really important conversations. And I think it's really interesting as well that you guys are sort of shifting from just being more of a product company to a platform with this new builder platform that you've recently unleashed. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the genesis of the builder program and sort of why you sort of decided to go in this direction.
Yeah, awesome. This is one of my favorite questions today, just because I'll tell you what, I've been so excited about what we're doing with this builder program. We have a chief product officer that we brought on the beginning of this year that's really helped us realize a lot of this. So shout out to Dave Berg on our team, who is really the mind child behind this effort. But going back to that idea as blockchain as an API, we've always just said, let's just get data on chain. How do we do this in a way that's almost a commoditization of blockchain, just making it sort of an afterthought? Because one of the terms I use a lot, Josh, is that we're not making technology to change the world. We're making technology for a changing world. If a lot of these systems like the internet were doing what they were supposed to, we wouldn't need this overlay that ensures that, some of this sensitive information hasn't been changed, tampered, spoofed, or corrupted, any of that stuff. So what we did is, as an extension of digital evidence, where we've been bringing this blockchain solution into the enterprise, since we've always been very passionate about being an open source platform that is community driven. We are a community driven network, and we are very developer focused. We wanted to open up a blockchain that we set aside specific for digital evidence for the builders out there, where they can just tap into this API and easily put data on chain to have those guaranteed proofs, or that those proven guarantees that you would get from a blockchain ledger. And so it's sort of like roll your own, if you will, right? So we're allowing people to choose what they want to put on chain with no throttling, no limits. Of course, I'm sure we're probably going to get somebody that's going to hammer the system pretty hard. We're going to have to throttle their keys at some point, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because we're very proud to be a scalable big data blockchain. So, give us your best. And so we launched the program actually, I think 3 days ago, Monday of this week. What day is it? Wednesday? Yeah, 2 days ago. And just in the last 2 days, I've been so busy, but I've had a chance to open up my Cursor AI agent application, and I vibe coded putting streaming data on our blockchain without writing one line of code. I just told it what to do. Of course, I supplied it the dependencies and AI libraries via links. So if you're anyone out there that's looking to put data on chain in a feeless fashion where there's no charge, but you now have this paper trail or this audit trail, if you will, of what's taking place within your application or whatever your data feed is, Constellation has now made this publicly available for anybody to use. And we're extremely proud of this.
That's so cool, man. So this is a free service at this point?
Right now, it's completely free. It comes with a public dashboard. So that is one of the things that, of course, we can work with you if you want your data to be obfuscated from the dashboard, even though it's all hashed and it's not sharing anything that is going to get anybody in hot water. But yeah, you can start messing around with it. It took me about 2 hours. I'm not a developer, so the fact that I was able to do it with some AI tools shows you that this is not going to cause anybody's eyes to cross.
So we've done almost 450 episodes. Can I take all those transcripts and put that on your platform?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. You could even figure out a way to do it in an automated fashion so you don't have to update the ledger at all, and it just does it. So yeah, you can put all of your stuff on a blockchain to prove that it took place.
All right, that's pretty cool. We might have to sidebar about this. This could be fun. Congrats on what you built there. What's sort of the ultimate vision or hope you have with this particular product? Like, what are the types of things that your wish list, if you will, of what you see people put on there?
Well, I think that we're in a time where we just have to get people familiar with the idea of putting data on chain, understanding why would they, what's the value of putting this stuff on chain. We are a big believer that not all data should be on a blockchain, right? We are not just throw everything on blockchain. No, that's not it. Also, we don't believe blockchain is going to solve the world's problems, much like the messaging in 2018.
Yeah,
everybody was
there was like this. There's a little bit of this utopia vibe going on with blockchain, and like I've always been a moderate when it comes to like emerging technology. I love the iPhone, but like I'm not the first one to buy the new one, but maybe I'm like third or fourth in line, right? So I think all this stuff is great, but let's not get this overblown with what's possible here. And I think that the best recipes take time to craft, right? Just like your grandmother's famous spaghetti meatballs or whatever. Like, I mean, that just didn't happen. It took some time to create a great recipe, right? It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, and I mean, what I often compare blockchain adoption to is largely the cloud adoption. That took a long time. I think people lost track of how many years and decades it took us from going from, on-premise to trusting the cloud. And I think blockchain is a little bit slower because everybody's a little drunk on crypto and it stole the show, which is totally fine. But we are trying to use this API as a way to get people excited about why would I put data on chain? What value does it have? And it's sort of a testing bed, not saying that people can't derive value of this open API, but we want them to build their own blockchain network on our platform. They can stand it up. They can run their own code free of charge. Again, we're open source. Just, provide your own infrastructure through a few VMs and you're off to the races, and you can actually have a viable business off of this. So, but if we really kind of zoom out, I believe that the true vision is the cross section between AI, crypto, and blockchain. And I think this pairing of these three entities, or not really entities, these expressions is where the sweet spot is at, right? And if I was to express that just a little bit further, it would be around something I've been beating the drum about for 5 years plus, which is micropayments, microservices, and micro investments. And the big thing in the middle there are those microservices. And with this explosion of agentic AI, microservices are now becoming this massive footprint that we're going to see in the digital ecosystem across the entire globe, all the way down to Fortune 500 companies. And this is a true use case that we're working on with one, is how do you get people to interact with an AI help desk bot that you authenticate into? The moment you authenticate, it knows of course, your buying history, who you are as a customer. It in that moment creates a hot wallet behind the scenes. And while you're interacting with it, if you choose to kind of go down the path that reduces call volumes and is better for the company, you're rewarded in a currency that you can then spend against products and services that increases not only the reputation of the brand, but it also reduces churn of maybe upset customers. And now that may seem like a weird use case, but that right there is a sweet spot between AI, blockchain, and cryptocurrency. And having this digital evidence as an underpinning that's constantly logging these events, that keeps a lot of folks not only out of hot water when it comes to the offense, but really sets them up for a great time when it comes to compliance on the defense down the line. So that's sort of the bigger vision of how this stuff comes together.
And I guess in that sort of blueprint that you laid out there, how does your company interact or anticipate interacting with other layer ones? So, you got Ethereum, but there are layer ones that are doing things in the government sector, like, for example, Hedera. Avalanche did the project with the DMV in California. Is where in sort of your ecosystem do these other layer ones play a role, if any?
Yeah. I mean, we've always been a big proponent that there's not one blockchain to rule them all. So I want to give a big shout out of love to Hedera and Avalanche and Polygon. I mean, all these different groups are doing something that I believe is very meaningful to rise all the boats in their respective ways, right? And so one of the big things that one of our specific contracts years back was to show interoperability amongst other blockchain solutions with the government so that they could tell that they didn't have to buy into one provider, much like cloud providers. They don't want to be pinned to just AWS GovCloud. They want to be able to pivot over to Azure, in which case they have some resource constraints or they want different capabilities. I believe the same thing with blockchain. That said, much like Constellation, a lot of these ecosystems and big companies are trying to find their way. What's their sweet spot? What's their X factor? And when I hear stuff about DMV stuff on a blockchain, that's an awesome use case, right? And there's so much that can benefit from us having those true provenance of documents and whatnot on a blockchain, such as marriage certificates, real estate, and so forth, which I know we'll probably touch on here in a moment. But of course, we've got bridges into Ethereum. Right now, we're working strongly with the base team over at Coinbase within that ecosystem. We do believe in the meme coin movement, but we want to do it with the right partner. And that's why we chose Base in that retrospect. And so we've got some really amazing expressions happening that are cross-pollinating within these groups because we believe in collaboration. That will be a drum that will continue to beat.
That's interesting. You mentioned you believe in the meme coin movement. I'm a little bit surprised. I'm not sure if I believe in it or not. It's sucked a lot of liquidity out of the market at various points in time. However, I do appreciate that it's also been an onboarding bridge to many. I've had people reach out to me, how do I buy this coin related to our current president, right? So I'm just, I guess, curious what your perspective is on meme coins since you mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, it's early. I do believe in the tokenization of communities. I think that good community management should be rewarded as such. And, I believe that the folks that are good actors within this expression deserve to pump an amazing token. Unfortunately, as you well know, 98%, if not more, of meme tokens are rug pulls. But at the same time, if we look back to the late 90s, 98% of bandwidth was for pornography. And it was that most of the internet was there to support something that, and I believe wasn't the best thing for humanity, much like rug pulls and a lot of these people that are getting burned on these meme coins. But if you're able to push all of that nonsense out and sort of look a little bit down the horizon, that tokenization of community efforts is really beautiful. And I think that right now, those that have been flooding this are a lot of bad actors, people creating what I would say largely are degenerate, communities. I don't think we should have Nazi token and all these awful kind of funny expressions, but there are really amazing communities. To point one out, We're partnered up with a group called Christ is King. We don't really fancy ourselves at Constellation as a big religious group, but we do believe in people trying to do the right thing on behalf of humanity. That's part of our tenets. And we met these Christ is King guys at the On-Chain Summit base conference about 3 weeks ago. We were a joint sponsor. Tongue in cheek, salt of the earth guys. They're trying to bring 2.8 million Christians on chain, and they have this token. And it's not just about the meme token. It comes to all sorts of applications that activate this community in a meaningful way. And there's nothing better expressed in communities than those that are part of different churches, right? And so I just wanted to paint quickly, Josh, that there are some shining lights that are happening in this movement.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't know what the right name is for that type of project. It's definitely like a more evolved meme coin project. There's definitely this community centered type of small community centered tokens where there really is an underlying mission, vision, values, and community. So if that's what you're talking about in terms of like the meme coins that you're excited about, I get excited about that. I mean, that's like NFTs. It's these are cultural artifacts, right? And community is community in all shapes and forms and in geographic boundaries or lack of. So I think when you can connect people together in a deeper, more meaningful way using technology, that's a good thing. So I'm with you on that. Thank you for sharing your philosophy there. Sure. And I think part of doing this sort of connecting and building these bridges is the right tools. We talked about your builder platform, which is one tool that you're using to sort of open the kimono per se. And then you also have some other types of sort of tools that you're thinking about for both natives and traditional devs. So I'm curious, like, what are the must-haves when it comes to designing tools that are accessible, and how do you sort of balance sort of being something that's government military grade friendly with being as innovative as possible?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one to strike, right? I mean, there was probably 4 years I couldn't even use the word wallet when I was in DoD conversations because people would freak out thinking that I was representing some human trafficking Ponzi scheme. There's, like I said, there's a stigma attached to this stuff. That said, we're past that time. Now I feel like the government, especially with this new administration, has opened up, but become much more crypto friendly. And so it is tough, right? Like, I feel like this is the first year we're not looking over our shoulders. And I mean that in the sense that a lot of this is unregulated. How do you build an emerging business when you don't know what the rules are? And if you break a rule that hasn't been, Gary Gensler was sending those Wells notices for people breaking rules that he never established. And so they would countersue him and they would win. And I just think that's a bad look for everything, right? I think a lot of people don't understand that China has had the blockchain service network up and running for both federal and commercial humming for 5 years. And here over in America, where we're supposed to be effectively this, innovative hotbed for new technology, we're getting left behind in this category. And so there is a motivation for the government to not poo-poo on this and take it rather serious at this point, because what it does force, as you well know, is we start doing things overseas. So what it requires, unfortunately, for a company like us, and I know our friends at Cardano, all these other, executives and founders I've talked to, they are on the same boat where you have to spin up a lot of different entities. And depending on what work you're doing, you have to kind of shuffle it in there. Oh, we're going to do delegated staking. Great. That's going to be in our Cayman entity because it still is sort of a gray area. Or we're going to do something that's DAO related. That's going to be our Wyoming entity. We want to do something traditional. We can do that out of Delaware. That's our way of being able to organize this thing while we kind of are on bated breath for some of the consolidation effort to happen from a regulation and rules perspective, which I know is happening right now in real time as we speak this year. And so that's giving folks a lot more of a brazen energy to get involved, not just on the federal side and not even just on the commercial side, but from the investment pool. There's been so much traditional finance from a mergers and acquisitions perspective that have been waiting on the sidelines saying, we want to get involved. There's like, I don't even know what it is, $4.5 trillion in digital assets flowing in this industry. And outside of us messing around with like Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs, we can't really tap into some of these things without having to look over our shoulders. And if you ask a lawyer, is it legal, and they don't have an answer, the answer is going to be a no for most people. So
Yeah,
again,
I'm just envisioning you in a boardroom meeting with your operations, your finance, your legal team, and pretty much like you're pushing the boundaries with these guys and keeping them quite busy, because that's a lot of corporate infrastructure that you're building, and bookkeeping and accounting, and as the sort of overarching managing partner for my org, I'm just thinking, oh my, what, that's a lot of headaches. But I mean, I think this is sort of your commitment to pushing the boundaries of innovation. You do what you got to do to sort of keep moving forward within sort of these evolving boundaries, right? So kudos to you on that, man.
yeah, we pay a lot of money to lawyers, unfortunately. God bless the lawyers, but man, they are expensive, right? But Ben Jorgensen, my business partner, the CEO, whenever he has a new idea that he wants to go to market with, he starts every meeting with, all right, I have an idea. Don't say no. And so we always have to figure out, like, okay, how are we going to do this thing? And unfortunately, there are situations where we're like,
I love that. I'm gonna start using that expression with my team, because yeah, that's great. That's great. Let's talk a little bit about the smart checkbox, the smart checkmark. This idea of sort of a trust signal for compliance and data integrity that you guys have put out there in the world. What's the ripple effect you're hoping for here?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of my personal visions I've had, since we started. All harkens back to that idea of the Intel Inside sticker. I don't know if you remember that back in the day, where you'd buy a computer and you'd see that sticker, you'd be like, oh, it has one of those chips, I'm going to buy it.
Sure, yeah.
Right. I had this belief that we're going to get into a timeline that if there isn't that validation check mark, people are not going to be able to trust what they see or what they're consuming. And so much like digital evidence being really in your face with what it is, we wanted smart checkmark to explain what it is. Oh, it's a check mark that this has been validated. What makes it smart is you can click on it or hover over it, and it exposes the pertinent information that proves that this has been successfully logged and it is what it says it is, and that you can trust it. Of course, we want to get to the place, much like in the late 90s with the little lock up in the URL bar. When people were shopping, they were very nervous if they didn't see that thing. Nobody would really click on it, but if they did, they would see that there's a gateway, that there's an SSL cert, and that would give them the confidence that they're not going to get had with their credit card when they're buying something. We want the same thing. We believe that the future is going to be even down to live news coverage of a CNN. Hey, we're on the front lines in Ukraine, and there's going to be a QR code that you can hover, and that is going to be validated lat long. They are where they say they are, and they are who they say they are. I believe that's going to be required in a world of deep fakes and tomfoolery, if you will, right? And so by applying the smart checkmark to people's workflows, it sort of answered the question that a lot of folks at the DoD had, which is, where the heck does the blockchain live? Like, how do you interact with it? How do you know this thing's running, right? Especially if it's behind the scenes. So we wanted to bring something visually forward that when you experience it, you know that it is what it says it is. And the last thing I'll say is a shout out to Scott Storanetta, the founder of blockchain back in the 90s. Lucky enough to have a few calls with him and make a friendship. He has Checkmark, which we're a huge user of. I even have it in my signature, where you can validate, if you're on a video like this, that you are to who you say you are, to thwart AI deepfakes. And so I believe this validation and verification service that is coming through insignias or icons is going to be something that we're going to get rather used to. Or is Josh who he says it is, or am I talking to a deep fake that's going to cause me to give them my seed phrase,
Yeah, great stuff, man. And you guys are just building so many different products and playing with all this technology, which is why it was difficult to figure out what panel to put you guys on. But we'll cover a few other areas here because I think they're fascinating. One being real estate. So you have a real estate ledger, and it sounds like, or feels like to me, you're sort of reimagining ownership, transparency, community development, what it could look like. There are other real estate projects out there. Real estate's been a use case that's been talked about since I entered the industry in 2018. It's something I've always been excited about. What's your take on real estate, and how has that influenced the product that you've built?
Yeah. Just to give you probably more information you want here, but like when we started out, like, we're infrastructure, right? We wanted others to build on top of us. That said, selling infrastructure is really hard. I often say it's like selling electricity. And if you're not talking about a blender or a light that plugs into it, nobody really needs electricity, right? And so the application layer is where the hot space is at. And this is another shout
I
out
think
to
a
our,
lot of
you know,
a lot of layer ones realized that and started just building, right? Like
yeah.
Aptos and Sui, sure, you can build on them, but they're having fun building too.
Yeah, no, and then we fully support that. In lieu of people coming to our network and building solutions, we decided to sort of activate that layer within the company, and we have partners we do it with that way. So we have people that maintain and grow these businesses, but we work with them on getting them off to the races. And the real estate ledger was
So like a incubator / accelerator, right?
correct, but we use our core team versus kind of throwing them into a mosh pit to eat each other. So we work with them hand to hand. And the real estate ledger was one that was said, hey, if we're able to put digital evidence of any sort on a ledger, why not build an application that makes it very easy for those that own either a single house or a series of house, a condo building, people that are building buildings, to put all of that information on a ledger so that you have all of this stuff verified in one place. And it goes beyond just things like the title of my home. You can also put things like your utility providers, that sort of stuff on there as well. And then there's an agentic AI that sits on top of it that is constantly optimizing where things could be better by offering also additional, utilities and opportunities. Hey, we noticed that you're signed up for Xfinity and you're getting your internet at this price. They just had a deal that popped up. Do you want us to send you the information to reduce your price by 20%? Or we're doing a promo with Minute Maids and they'll come out and they'll clean for 20% less if you're willing to. So just optimizing your home. But then when you start looking at the sale of the home, that becomes sort of like the Carfax for your home. And there's a different level of validation, right? You can't just trust it if people are just taking documents and adding them on there. It'll say great. You get a little bit of a gray check mark with this, showing that you put it on. All right. If you have somebody else sign on, it goes to yellow. If you get it 3 people, you go to green. And I'm probably botching this because I don't know the product as well as I should because it's not my oversight. But that's the vision right there. And I'm personally going to use this, and it's going to be generally available on October 28th of this year. So we're going to be able to hand people the keys at the conference, which is pretty cool.
Oh, great. That's awesome timing. We got a gala on the the 29th. So we'll have to brainstorm there on what kind of fun stuff we can do with folks with giving them a chance to try this out. My cousin was telling me about some really fascinating zoning complexities in her particular city. She lives in New Hampshire. In addition to sort of having to have 2 acres between homes, there's a lot of sort of subzoning restrictions and road restrictions. And I think like knowing what you're buying and knowing what you can do with that property and what you can't do, it would be so helpful because sometimes you figure it out once you already sort of own the property. So I think, I don't know if that's on their radar, but add that to the wish list there. It just came up recently. So RWA tokenization, let's hit on that briefly as well with Packaswap. What's that all about?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's important for folks to know that we are a completely vertically aligned. Well, to a point, we don't have our own hosting. We're not our own cloud provider. But when it comes to a web ecosystem, we have, our Block Explorer for transactions. We've got our Stargazer wallet for, crypto trading and buying and whatnot. We got digital evidence. We have a lot of different tools. We even are about to launch a thing called Valid Vote that allows people to do voting on a blockchain. They can, and that's going to make its way into the HOA voting for the real estate ledger so that we have voting on there and whatnot. It's all about transparency, right? And so I just think that where we're moving now into this when it comes to the decentralized exchange, our DEX, we thought it was actually appropriate for us, since we have our own network, to have our own decentralized exchange. And not so much that we were seeing it as like, okay, how do we go head to head with Uniswap? Like, dude, we're gonna lose that race every single day. But as you mentioned coming into this, we're doing a lot of stuff as builders, but we're a unique group, right? We're a unique ecosystem. I tell people all the time, Constellation isn't like the others. So that really is reflected in Packaswap as well. And Packaswap is our decentralized exchange. It's live now. You can do these swaps, but really the X factor to it goes back to real world asset tokenization. And that's kind of that real estate ledger is like one of the first to show people like, hey, let's take real world assets such as titles and deeds and so forth and put those on a blockchain. But that could go even further. We've been talking with a lot of mining operations. Every mine seems to keep reach out or just like, hey,
And
we're
not just talking about crypto mining. You're talking about like
minerals,
like
gold,
rare minerals. Got it.
Yeah. And so they have these sensors that are mining these minerals that have a value that then are being traded and sold on crypto exchanges. And what they don't have is that delta to show if they truly are worth what they say they are, or if there's been bloat that's been added on the front end that nobody can validate. You just have to trust it, right? Where we will have the ability to show them from a real world asset tokenization that this was mined at this time with this value, this weight. And so when you're buying it, you're getting it at this cost. Of course, there's going to be fees associated with it, but there's not going to be bloat. Kind of like going to Vegas and getting that resort fee tax every time you rent a room. It's like, where's that going, right? So having real world asset tokenization keeps those downstream accountable for not adding those intermediaries that often do, really push the value of what that true asset is down. And we're seeing this across the board. We're working on some pretty amazing real world asset tokenization projects, which I think is the panel that I'm on, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'll be able to talk on that panel with some really amazing use cases that we've got in the hopper or that we've already expressed, because this is the future. And a lot of these companies, Josh, are seeing this as a way to fundraise, because now they have an ability to unlock that asset at an early stage with a large swath of crypto holders, 4 trillion plus, that now can have fractional ownership of something that is going to only go up in value as those businesses mature down the road. So
that makes a lot of sense. And if I was moderating your panel, which I'm not, the follow-up question I would ask you is, what's in it for the government? How can the government take advantage of real world asset tokenization?
Well, I mean, the government is sitting on the largest asset pool in the world, the United States government. I mean, just look at BLM, right? The Bureau of Land Management, the amount of land, and now they're starting to sell that stuff off. That's a huge tokenization opportunity, in my opinion, if they're going to be selling this stuff off. Do it through that where you actually can fractionalize this. I mean, think about the regulations that we have around.
Yeah, because these are big plots, and people may not be able to afford them, but they may want a little piece of something in Wyoming or Montana or something, right?
Yeah, and they want the ability to stake against it, like all this stuff that you can do on it that you can't do with traditional finance. As I was going to say, there's like, look at accredited investing. I think that's a broken, weird model that you have to be rich to get richer, right? You can't invest in things unless you have a certain bag.
Yeah, I mean, without looking at things from a political lens, I mean, the fact is there's just a greater divide than ever between the rich and everyone else, right? And it's becoming very difficult to purchase a home in the United States and in other countries. So the idea of fractionalization of ownership becomes that much more important, I think.
And it's not because the desire is not there. It's just that the pipes are too clunky and the money's too clunky, right? Like, I've been trying to move money off of my bank account to Coinbase this last few days, and it's taken forever to clear. And I'm watching the charts and I'm like, damn it. And so if you fractionalize the pipes using blockchain for those microservices, and you fractionalize the pipes of money using the fractionalization of cryptocurrency, I can send you 0.000001 Bitcoin. You open up a whole world of investment that allows the tokenization of these assets that are largely locked right now. And so a lot of companies that have been rather sort of against this movement are getting hip to this, and they see that they're sitting on a treasure trove that is largely unlocked, and they're looking to real world asset tokenization to unlock it.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about the cousin of RWAs, which is decentralized physical infrastructure, the DePIN space. you guys have a product in that space as well called Door, DOR. Am I saying it correctly?
Yep.
So with Door, you're getting into this sort of bridging process between physical and digital infrastructure. I'm curious, where do you think the ripe opportunities are in terms of geographies and industries, and what inspired this particular product?
Yeah, so we got into deep in before we even heard the term. I was at a conference like, what the heck is deep in? Like, oh, DCIS stands for this. I was like, oh, we've actually been doing that for a while. We acquired a company called Door Technologies. It's a thermal sensor that sits above a door. It counts foot traffic. It's not a surveillance device. It's HIPAA compliant, so they can be in bathrooms and whatnot. And it, just tracks foot traffic. And the use cases are like the efficacy of boarding flights, changing bathrooms. Big one is retail. Showing people what their conversion rate is at any given time within their store. 100 people came in, 10 bought, got a 10% conversion rate for that hour. Very valuable, and we still sell that to the enterprise, and we've got over 2,000 customers on that product. But we decided we always say put a node on it. We put a node on these things, right? We said, okay, let's put a Constellation Light node that we can put on this device so that those that buy the device, they get a Door token in their wallet every time validated foot traffic is on our network. And this is sort of a win-win-win, right? Because the owner of the device wins because they get the cryptocurrency. But if they're a business establishment, they also get advanced analytics that feed into their POS system that they can use for so many insights within their business. And then we as a company, we make money by selling that data to groups like Google and Foursquare and Snowflake and so forth. That makes things like, hey, you can get real-time reporting on Google of how many people are actually in this bar right now or wherever. And that was the first expression. And we actually open source that entire metagraph, which is one of our blockchains, to say, hey, if you've got a weather sensor, you can open up weather rewards for people deploying these devices. The sky's the limit, right? Because really all you need to run a node is power processing and memory. And you can do that on things the size of a grain of rice these days. So you can put blockchain nodes on so much infrastructure that not only increases the interoperability from a data set perspective in a way that's never existed before, because you now have this mesh network, but it does it in a secure fashion that has programmatic rewards in it. So again, I think that there's this massive cross section between AI, blockchain, and crypto that's taking place. And if it can land directly on some of this deappreciating hardware that's sitting out there, I've often said, you got a BMW that's cost you all this money, 97% of the time it's sitting dormant out in front of your house. What if your head unit was running validation of data that is paying you while that car is sitting there, and it could pay off your car insurance every month? I mean, that's the value of opening up these networks from decentralized physical infrastructure.
Let's take a pause to shout out one of our favorite partners. For tech innovators facing legal challenges, Zuba Lawler is your go-to law firm. They focus on understanding your technology and business model before addressing legal requirements. Specializing in blockchain, AI, VR, AR, quantum computing, and more, Zuba Lawler offers expert guidance in capital raising, IP transactions, M&A, litigation, and compliance. Visit zuberlawler.com, that's ZUBERLAWLER.com, for cutting-edge legal solutions. Very cool. So just a clarification follow-up question on Door, which is fascinating product, is with regard to Helium, obviously where you have your node in the financial incentives varies based on sort of the saturation of that market and some other factors. With Door, does the incentive structure vary by geography, or is it just purely based on traffic? For example, does having a fine dining restaurant in New York using the product, and someone using it at a farm, for example, with people picking berries, does that change the economics, or is it sort of use case neutral?
It's rather use case neutral. We do have two tiers of devices. We have a light version and a heavier one. The heavier one develops more rewards. So if you are one of those institutions that really has heavy foot traffic and you want to kick up your rewards and you're not so interested in the advanced analytics to your business, you can buy one of these devices and take that route. If you're more interested in the advanced analytics, you can probably get away with the smaller ones because you don't care about the rewards as much. So that's really the only tiering of choose your own adventure. But for the most part, it's flat across all use cases for now.
Cool. And what's the break even point approximately on average for folks that buy the device?
That's the one thing I won't talk about on anything is any price action of anything. So yeah, I won't talk about that, but you can look into it for sure. So we can provide you some information on the door stuff. It fluctuates. So yeah, if I say it today, I'll be in hot water tomorrow.
Got it. Understood. Yeah. Not financial advice. No financial advice at all in this show, but definitely curious. We'll have to sort of have a sidebar on that one too. I'm going to add it to the parking lot, but
You got it.
definitely cool. And folks should look into that. And, very excited about your partnership with Panasonic. I had a chance to meet the Panasonic team at the Digital Chamber event, and they'll also be joining us in our event and on Capitol Hill as well. And I think it just kind of speaks to the broader potential in public sector, traditional enterprise, Web3 partnerships. How do you approach a partnership like this differently than your partnerships with, for example, the government or other blockchain companies?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm about to say is not profound, even though I still don't feel a lot of folks understand how important relationships are, right? These things take a long time and it's all about trust. The reason we got in bed with Panasonic is because they were an investor in the door device when we acquired it. So they saw it as a successful exit and are on our books now. And because of that, they invited me to be a part of their strategic steering or corporate steering committee. And over the last few years, I've gotten really close with their team. And when I was presenting to the DoD, I had this idea going back to how hard it is to sell infrastructure without blenders and lamps. I thought you guys are heavily involved in these Panasonic ruggedized Toughbooks. There's over 10,000 of them in the Army out there in the field. All the airliners have them in their cockpits. First responders.
And what's the Toughbook for our audience at home that doesn't want to Google?
Yeah. Okay. So the Panasonic Toughbook is the world-class, top-of-the-line laptop. They're not cheap. Made for situations where they fall in water, get burned. You can kick them over. For people that are in rather contested, hardcore environments where they still need this thing to perform.
I think I need a Toughbook with my travel. Man, my Mac is totally beat up. Got it. Okay.
They weigh a lot, so you're going to get stronger by it. And maybe I'll bring one to DC so you get a chance to see one of these bad boys. They're weapons, man. They're big. But they got touch screens. This one I've got has two GPS, 5G sensors, two GPS sensors, two batteries. It has an AI chipset that does local AI processing. I mean, these things are powerful beasts. That said, since so much information goes through these, we thought, let's do a standardized integration so folks can get that cryptographic security of communications, that digital evidence, those provable guarantees from the source of which everything takes place. So it kind of becomes that one-to-many thing. And first responders being a real big target on the commercial side for firefighters, EMTs, and ambulance, they all have these things in them. And Panasonic runs this infrastructure for 80% of the American first responders. I mean, it's a big chunk. And so we said, let's integrate into this. So now you got the use cases for a firefighter. They're on their way to an emergency. They flip their lights. It communicates to local infrastructure to turn the lights red so they can get there fast enough. Well, if somebody blows through one of those lights and hits them, they're now in litigation. He said, she said, ambulance chaser type of energy. But with us, we have admissible data in court that shows that long, this time, that day, sorry, pal, that light was red. It was what it says it is. And the case gets thrown out. And so we provide risk mitigation and liability assurance to these first responders at a very cost effective level per cabin to keep them out of hot water. And that's the power of blockchain.
Love it, man. I love that use case. And yeah, let me see one of these bad boys in person and decide if I need a workout. I'm more concerned about the fact I'm always at the upper limit of weights on my bags.
This will push you over.
And they're flying around Asia and Europe, and they just keep bringing down the weights, right? 15 kilogram maximum, and then it's like $10 per kilogram after that. I was like, wait, this is going to cost me $180 for this bag.
Let's get on.
Yeah. So anyways, but I would like to take a look at one of them in all seriousness. So
we got it.
This has been really a fun conversation, Ben, and just so excited about all the cool things you guys are doing. Let's zoom out a little bit. You've been calling what's happening in the space the rise of $1 trillion transparency economy. That's a strong statement. Can you paint a picture for us of what this looks like in practice and how it's going to change people's lives?
Yeah. And, I always take those statements with tongue in cheek because you use a big figure just to get people's attention. But at the same time, this one actually does make sense. Jorgensen, the CEO, gave a keynote at the event back in April or March. And this was really the precipice of what he was trying to push was this $1 trillion data economy. And what that means is right now, the level of data that's being created right now is unparalleled. It's unbelievable. The problem with that is the more it's created, the less valuable it becomes, right? And the reason why is because we're looking for a signal in that noise. And when you look at traditional advertising marketing technology, just really the big data sphere, there's always been this concept of third party, second party, and first party data, right? Third party being kind of like preferences, all the way down to first party being like personal information, blood work, that type of stuff, right? Well, there's this new tier because of data validation at the source, which is blockchain, verified data is going to be extremely valuable. We haven't been painting with the brush on the canvas of what automation looks like when it comes to like feeding automated data, because we have to spend so much time scrubbing it to make sure that it's not nefarious and funky. Imagine a blockchain is able to validate it at the source. That almost pre-processes that data, allowing it to flow into these automated systems, bringing forth a whole new world and a whole new economy of data that is going to prioritize that validated data. And it's going to bring out that signal in that sea of noise. So hopefully that makes sense. Does that land for you, Josh?
It lands, and I'm definitely excited about what's possible with the sort of a more open, regulation-friendly environment. I think there is this sort of trepidation with the institutions coming. They're here. At the end of the day, it's now about real use cases, like backing up these great ideas and great innovations with practical use cases that actually can turn into sustainable businesses, right? So that seems like to be what you guys have had the pulse on for quite a while. So it's an honor to have someone like you on the show and at our event. I have a government consulting background, worked with over 18 agencies over the course of 10 years. Some of the most rewarding work I've ever done, helping veteran homelessness issues, looking at sort of flight dispatch services for general aviation pilots. So the skies are safer, right? So there's so many cool things that can be done. And yeah, tokens may not go up and down as fast, but it does sound like you guys are looking at tokenization in creative ways and sort of bending the matrix there. But I think at the end of the day, it's also about making society better. And it seems like you guys are at that sort of precipice with all the different cool, fun stuff you're doing. So we'll have to get to know each other more, have you back on the show for some updates. In the meantime, Ben, where can people go to learn more about Constellation Network and some of these products?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big shocker. ConstellationNetwork.io. If you type into Google Constellation Network, we're the top result, which was really pretty cool. And there's a lot to sift through, right? It sort of becomes a choose your own adventure, which we're about to tighten up our brand and relaunch some stuff here in the coming months because we've sort of settled in on some of these X factor things. But I echo what you're saying, bud. I'll tell you what, like there's a lot of money, as you mentioned, going to the top, and the dispersion between the rich and the not rich is getting wider by the moment. And I believe that the real true word here when it comes to cryptocurrency is unlocking value. And I think that can flow to a lot of the folks that are involved in just everyday people, right? How do you get passive income by just doing what you're doing? Much like the BMW use case, right? I don't want to pay my insurance. How do I do it? Oh, dude, you can make it by turn that into a node validator. Now you're validating, launch commands and, whatever from something that you're making money on. And I think that's a really beautiful expression, is unlocking this for all. And I want to give a shout out to the Constellation community. I thank you guys for holding on and being so supportive of me and this company. As you guys know, I want us all to win. And I want to give a big shout out to the Constellation employees. They're the best team I've ever worked for, builders trying to do what's right for everyone, because we do truly want everybody to win.
Nice. And Ben, is Constellation Networks on X, and do you have an X handle as well?
Yeah. If you scroll to the footer of constellationnetwork.io, you'll see all of our social. Want to give a shout out to the Upsider AI, which is a product on Base that was built by one of our employees. That is an AI agent that is built directly into Twitter. You can go to the Upsider AI handle and say, "What is my address?" It'll create a hot wallet on the fly in the background. You don't have to set up anything, and send rewards, and then you can cash out by just doing activities on Twitter. It's amazing, the crazy stuff that's happening. So Twitter is a really big presence for us, but we've also activated it within our network in a way that no network has ever done before.
Wow, that's really cool, Ben. Well, thanks again for sharing this time with me and our audience today. I appreciate it.
You rock, buddy. I really appreciate having me on. I look forward to breaking bread and hanging out with you in a couple months.
Let's do it.
We've reached the outer limit at the edge of show for today. Thanks for exploring with us. We have room for more adventurers on our starship, so invite your friends and cool strangers to join our journey. If you're among the hundreds of thousands following us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or watching us on Myco or YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, rate us, and make an awesome comment too. And don't forget to pass this episode along to a friend or two who would benefit from it. Doubling back to again, recommend checking out myco.io, where you can watch The Edge of Show and earn for your time and attention. That's myco.io. Don't forget to visit theedgeofshow.com. The is part of the domain name, where you can learn more about collaborating with us, and also subscribe to the Edge of Weekly newsletter for the latest Web3 news, events, and show drops. In addition, connect with us on all major social platforms by searching for The Edge of Show. Join the exciting conversations happening online. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great Web3 and AI content. Until then, keep pushing the boundaries. Thanks again for hanging out with us today. The views and opinions expressed on The Edge of Show reflect solely those views and opinions of the show host and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.